At 10 o'clock in the morning, the U.S. Carrier Strike Group is operating in the northern Arabian Sea, holding a defensive spread east of the Strait of Hormuz. On paper, everything is stable. Distances are correct. Coverage overlaps cleanly. Every ship is exactly where it should be. But stability at sea is never permanent. It only exists until something breaks it. And this morning, something already has. The USS Arleigh Burke-class destroyer on the outer screen is running passive surveillance. Aegis deliberately held below full power to spy. One rotating low-intensity sweeps to avoid broadcasting's position. Inside the Combat Information Center, the atmosphere is controlled, almost routine. Operators are not tracking a threat. They're tracking the absence of one. And that absence is what makes the first anomaly stand out. It appears for less than 2 seconds. A faint disturbance buried in sea clutter, low altitude, near the radar horizon. Too weak to classify, too unstable to track. Then it disappears. No reaction. Not yet, because moments later, it comes back. Same bearing, slightly closer. Same altitude band. Again, it vanishes. Now it has a pattern, and patterns don't happen by accident. The operator tightens game, stripping away interference, forcing the system to hold onto anything real. The ocean clears for a moment. Then another spike hits the screen. Not random, not isolated, structured. And that's when the room realizes this isn't noise anymore. It's movement, and it's moving toward them. Above the strike group, the Hawkeye pushes the radar horizon outward, scanning beyond what the destroyer can see. It finds no missile plume, no confirmed airborne contact, but it does find something worse. Along the Iranian coastline, radar sites begin appearing in short bursts. One lights up for a few seconds, then disappears. Another activates miles away, then another, each one brief. Each one controlled. At first glance, it looks disorganized. It isn't. It's coordinated exposure. And that changes everything. Back on the destroyer, one returns begin lining up with those bursts. Every time a radar activates onshore, a faint disturbance appears offshore seconds later. Still too weak to lock. Still too brief to confirm. But now it's consistent. And consistency means intent. The tactical action officer doesn't say it out loud. He doesn't have to. Everyone already feels it. Electronic warfare shifts to passive mapping, collecting every frequency change across the coastline. The response is immediate. Iranian systems shorten emissions even further. Faster pulses, tighter windows, less exposure. They're not trying to see clearly. They're trying to see just enough without being seen at all. The rhythm forms quickly. Scan, pulse, drop, move, then it accelerates. Multiple radar sites begin overlapping bursts, stitching fragments together into something continuous. And that's when the picture stops being uncertain. On SBY-1, the scattered returns start forming a corridor. Low altitude, sea skimming, and now unmistakably inbound. The ocean isn't empty anymore. It's hiding something that's already committed. Inside the CIWS, everything tightens without a word. Aegis drops tracking thresholds automatically, forcing the system to hold even the weakest returns. Processing speeds increase. Fire control channels begin allocating in the background. Not engagement yet, but not passive either. Outside the hull, nothing has changed. The sea is calm, flat, indifferent. Inside the radar picture, something is closing fast. The Hawkeye feed updates again. Coastal radar bursts are now synchronizing across multiple sites, aligning just enough to maintain continuity. This is no longer fragmented tracking. It's a distributed system building a firing solution in pieces. Every burst fills a gap. Every silence is calculated. And it's working. Back on the destroyer, the returns converge into a defined corridor, a narrow path across the water where every reappearance is closer than the last. Still no launch signature. Still no infrared confirmation. But now it doesn't matter, because the geometry tells the story. The tactical action officer watches the timing. It's too clean, too precise. Someone is guiding this. And that's when the realization hits. This isn't surveillance. This is targeting. Aegis tightens again. Engagement solutions begin forming in the background, pre-calculated and waiting. The system isn't asking what's out there anymore. It's calculating how little time is left. The answer comes all at once. The coastline lights up for just a fraction longer than before. One radar holds its emission. Not enough to be reckless, just long enough to finish something. Offshore, the geometry shifts instantly. What was scattered becomes motion. Then the missiles appear, and almost invisible against the surface until their speed locks into terminal flight. Not one, multiple, staggered launches converging into a single corridor. And this is where everything changes. Inside the CIC, the transition is instant. Aegis moves from tracking to engagement without hesitation. Fire control locks snap into place. The first SM, 2 launches in a vertical flash, punching into the sky before arcing toward the inbound tracks. A second follows, then a third, each one assigned before the system even finishes confirming separation. Out on the horizon, the incoming missiles continue forward without deviation, hugging the surface to delay detection for as long as possible. The distance collapses fast. The first interception happens far out, a brief flash above the waterline. One target disappears, then another. 2 down, but the rest don't slow. They compress their timing, closing the gaps, forcing the system into constant recalculation. And that's exactly what this was designed to do. Inside the CIC, communication breaks into fragments. No full sentences, just confirmations layered over data that's updating faster than anyone can speak. Then one missile breaks through the outer layer. It drops lower, faster, adjusting its approach to slip through predicted intercept geometry. The system reacts instantly, launching another interceptor. But the timing is tight, too tight. The intercept happens just outside the defensive perimeter in a violent flash that ripples across the sea. And for a fraction of a second, the system loses clarity. And that's all the opening the next wave needs. The inner defense layer activates immediately. Evolved Sea Sparrow missiles launch in rapid sequence. Shorter range, faster reaction, built for exactly this moment. The sky fills with crossing trajectories. Outbound interceptors climbing. Inbound missiles cutting low across the surface. Everything converging into the same narrow band of airspace. Another interception flashes. Another target gone, but not all of them. One track holds. It slips through a timing gap created by overlapping engagements. Not because it wasn't seen, because everything else demanded priority at the same moment. And now, there's no distance left. It enters the inner envelope at extreme speed. This is the moment every system is built for, and the moment every crew hopes never comes. CIWS spins up instantly. Radar locks. Barrels begin rotating at extreme speed. Outside, the ocean disappears into motion and sound. Inside, everything reduces to milliseconds. The gun fires. A dense stream of rounds fills the missile's path, creating a wall of probability directly in front of it. The missile doesn't deviate. It commits fully, dropping even lower in a final attempt to survive. Then the intercept happens almost on top of the ship. A violent fragmentation bloom erupts just off the bow. The shockwave slams into the hull milliseconds later, sending a deep shudder through every compartment. For a moment, it feels like impact, but it isn't. The missile never makes it. And that's the difference between damage and survival. Inside the CIC, no one relaxes, because the system is still tracking. Smaller clusters remain, spaced out deliberately to exploit reload windows and timing gaps. This was never a single wave. It was a test, designed to stretch the system until something failed. Aegis redistributes priorities instantly. Another interceptor launches, then another. Far out, one track breaks apart under impact. Another detonates near the surface, but one more persists longer than the rest. It slips through a narrow gap created by overlapping engagements. Not a failure of detection, a limitation of timing. It enters the inner defense envelope at full speed. CIWS reacquires in milliseconds. Barrels spin, the firing solution locks, and the final engagement erupts just above the waterline. The detonation is partially absorbed by the sea itself, sending a column of spray and vapor upward before collapsing back down. Then for the first time since this started, nothing. No inbound tracks, no follow-on returns. Just empty space where continuous motion existed seconds ago. Inside the CIC, systems begin to stabilize. Tracking filters widen. Engagement states step down. Outside the hull, the ocean looks exactly the same. Flat, quiet, indifferent. But inside the ship, everything has changed. Damage reports begin compiling. Minor structural stress. Sensor distortion. Nothing critical, but close. Too close. And that's when the realization settles in. This wasn't a warning. It was a full saturation test, built to force every defensive layer to fire, to compress timing until something broke. The strike group is still intact, still moving, still operational. But now the system knows something it didn't before. It knows exactly how close the failure point is. And somewhere beyond the horizon, they know it too.